Right. So good morning. I am Dr. Leo Bastos. I'm an assistant professor here at the University of Georgia Crop and Soil Sciences. And this semester I'm teaching two courses. One of them, the one that you're here today, is data science and statistical programming applied to ag. I'm very excited about this course. It's a course that I'm launching the first time this semester. And I guess like looking at the content, I wish there was something like this when I was a student, because I think it's going to be a really fun um, data science journey this semester. So thanks everyone for joining this class, and I hope you do gain a lot from it for your research. All right, so if you are taking my other class, which is the Advanced Topics in Precision Ag, you may have already seen some of the things we're going to be talking about, especially this beginning. This intro is going to be somewhat similar. So if you are taking this other class, bear with me, but things are going to start to get different very soon as well. So I sent you all an email yesterday with the link to my website. So this is going to be a very important link, because basically almost all of the material that I'm going to be sharing with you is going to be on this website. That includes code, instructions, and recordings in case you want to double check again a recording of a class, or maybe if you miss a class. So just getting you familiarized with the website, this is how it looks. The landing page looks like. You're going to be on the home of the website. All of my teaching material is going to be on this tab called Teaching. If you click there, there's going to be two active links for both of the courses I'm teaching this semester. Again, the one that we are right now is Data Science and Statistical Programming Applied to Ag. So if you click on that, it's going to take you to the main page of this course, where the first thing that comes up here is the schedule. And so here on this schedule, I have all the topics already listed here that I want to cover. If you're interested in what we're going to be learning or the topics we're going to be covering, you can go through this schedule here. You're going to notice that the last month or so has no topics, and I'm leaving that on purpose because I think that some of these topics here may require more time than what I'm giving them right now. So then we have some room to extend some of the labs and lectures if we need to. Okay, so if you come here on this page, so each day we're going to have a topic. If the link here is active for slides, code, or recording, then it's going to be blue like that. So we do have some slides for today. If you are following on your side, you can go ahead and open those slides. It's going to launch an HTML page. This is what I'm going to be following with you today. And today is really just for us to go through some of the details of the syllabus, so you get familiar with what we're going to be covering. And also I get to know you better and your research interests, so we can, if there is a specific topic that seems like a lot of people are doing or interested and it's not added to the syllabus, I can always adjust it to better match what you all are interested in learning. Okay, so if you want to follow along, you can go on the website and click on the slides. You can also just watch me go through it, because there's really not going to be, there's not going to be any difference between what I go through and what's on the website. But there's a link for the slides if you want to. All right, so again, I'm going to be the instructor for this semester. I'm an assistant professor in Integrative Precision Ag here at UGA. Since my undergrad, I always had an interest for statistics, especially applied statistics in ag. And during my PhD, I took a minor in stats, and I always enjoyed programming, stats, and I guess this intersection between programming, stats, computer science, and applied sciences like we have here. And this interest and this motivation of mine helped me to teach different workshops and even different classes that are all related to some of the topics we're going to be covering in this class. So I'm really excited to share that with you this semester. All right, so the syllabus, maybe I should have noted that, but let me go back to the website. So after the schedule, you have the entire syllabus on the website. So you're welcome to browse that and to get familiar with it as well. And we're going to touch base on some of the highlights of the syllabus today, but it's always going to be there for you to see as well. So let me go back to the presentation. Okay, so our meeting times and locations. So lectures are Tuesdays, 9:30 to 11:10. Labs are Thursdays, 9:30 to 11:30. See that we have a little bit more time on Thursdays. And really just a point that I want to make here is that even though on paper we have lectures on Tuesdays and labs on Thursdays, sorry, I really don't distinct that. I mean, we're going to be doing a lot of live coding in both days regardless. So I guess you can consider that as a lab. And we're also going to have some lectures in both days just to introduce a topic or show something before we get to the coding part. So even though we're calling lectures and labs, there's really no difference between Tuesdays and Thursdays as far as content goes. For location, if you're here in Athens, I guess you found your way to the right room. But we're going to be meeting in this room throughout the semester, 1203 Miller. If you're in Tifton, I think, Austin, if you are the only one in Tifton, I don't mind if you watch the live classes from your office, or I mean, wherever you want to watch it from. You don't have to go to that in-person location, the Tifton
Yes,
campus.
sir.
Yeah, if you do have more people in Tifton, I think you all can benefit from being in the same room to help each other. But if you're the only one, I'm okay with you watching remotely.
I checked the class list on ELC, and I do believe I'm the only one.
Okay, yeah, so you're welcome to watch it just remotely then.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Yeah. And if you're in Griffin, your in-person location is SLC UGA Computer Lab or remote. And I think I make this point later here in the presentation, but just want to reiterate that from the beginning. If you are in Athens, I do expect you to attend in person. If you are in Tifton or Griffin, you do have an in-person location you can go to if you wish, but you don't have to attend from that in-person location. You can attend remote. And I did share the Zoom credentials by email. If you did not get them, let me know and I'll be glad to share that again. Okay, so I have a bunch of course objectives here. And so I just want to walk you through some of them. Hopefully these are at least as I'm putting this course together, I'm very excited about these topics. I think they're really fundamental and very important for any graduate student in the applied sciences. And I hope that you also find them interesting. So the number one is learning and applying analytical workflows that involve importing data, processing, analyzing, assessing model fit, extracting model information, and producing publication-ready figures for different analysis that include ANOVAs and regression. So this is a mouthful, but just to break it down a little bit, the more that I did my own data analysis and helped others and also taught workshops, I realized there's a theme, I guess, a workflow that works for mostly all analysis, where you first bring in data, you explore that data, you wrangle data. We're going to be doing a lot of data wrangling. That's a big component of data science in any field. And then running some models, checking to see if the model is actually good fit for our data, and then learning from that model and presenting that in a figure or table. So this, on the left here, we just have this concept of that it actually comes from, I believe, Hadley Wickham, which is one of the authors of many packages that we're going to be using. He is an RStudio scientist, and he has done a lot for the open source community in R. So this is just the idea that we import data, we tidy it, we transform, visualize, model, understand what's going on, and then communicate. So this workflow is what we're going to be doing throughout the semester as you learn different analysis. And then here on the right, I just have one example of one figure from a paper. I mean, the figure itself, there's nothing special about it, or the paper itself. It's just this concept of a lot of times we see on publications, people show bar plots, and I particularly try to avoid that because I think bar plots, we're going to be reading some materials I'll share with you, but bar plots have the lowest ink to information ratio, meaning that it uses a lot of ink to really show you a mean. So I tried to get away from bar plots and actually show the actual raw data distribution, which here we're using box plots to do that. There are other types of plots we can also use for that, like density plots and others. And then, so showing the raw data with the box plots, but then showing the statistical inference with the ladder separation that we see here. So we're combining raw data and statistical inference in the same plots. It helps us understand our data. It helps our audience understand what's going on behind the scenes as well. So everything we're going to be doing is going to follow some of these concepts. All right, so the second objective here is conducting analysis of variance workflows for the most commonly used agricultural design studies. So this is not a full-blown experimental design class. We're not going to be, so maybe half of the semester we're going to be talking about some of that. The other half is going to be machine learning. But for the half that we're going to be talking about experimental data, going to cover completely randomized design, randomized complete block design, and split plot design. From my own research, from what I read, from my colleagues, I think these are the most common ones you're going to come across. So you may have a more complex, a different design than these. And for that, if you want to learn how to analyze that, maybe you should look for a different resource. But in this class, we're covering what's most important for most people, which these designs are the most common ones. So really just another example here is just a figure that you're going to see in one of the lectures where, when do we use each one of these designs and why? So this is just one example of a randomized complete block design with like 2 soil types in the background, just to depict that and why we're using randomized complete block design and not just a completely randomized design. So we're going to talk about that, and you're going to understand when to use it, how to run these models, and really making sure that you're running the right model for the right data. Because if you've used any statistical software in the past, you probably already know that the software is not going to tell you you're doing something wrong. You can run a completely randomized design on the field, come to a computer and actually run that as a wrong design. The computer is not going to know. It's going to be on you, on us as researchers to know we're running exactly the right model for the data that we planned before even implementing that study. And then just another example here of like showing box plots and then mean separation, mean comparison with the letters in a very, very clear, enticing way, I guess, like something that is really easy and is nice to look at this at these plots. So publication ready plots from these designs. The number 3 here is conducting linear and nonlinear regression workflows. So linear regression here on the left, I mean, it's very simple. It's probably one of the simplest backbones of stats and data science and machine learning. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on that, but that's going to be connected to actually running nonlinear models, which we see on the right here. So a very common type of analysis that we see in agriculture is a dose-response relationship. So in this case here on the right, you see as we increase plant density, we are changing yield and to what extent that is. So the goal here, the goal of this analysis that I'm showing you was to find the optimum level of plant density or the level of plant density to optimize yield. And this is just the different quantiles of that distribution. So it's just this idea of nonlinear models that we use a lot of times to find optimums within our data. So the linear regression is just going to connect with that nonlinear side, just so we understand what is the best model fit when we're trying to do this type of analysis. Number 4 here is learning and applying machine learning concepts. So some of the very important concepts that is going to permeate all the machine learning topics is bias, variance, trade-off, data split, hyperparameter optimization, predictive metrics, and then really understand those concepts, but then apply them to algorithms using agricultural data sets as well. So then we're going to apply. So we're going to see a lot in this class, especially when it comes to the machine learning side of things. You may receive a data set that has your response variables or your predicted variables. So let's say yield across, I don't know, 500 side years in the US of a given crop. And then now we're going to explore open source databases for soils, weather, yield, other things, remote sensing, that we can leverage to download that data and use that data as predictors in a machine learning model that predicts yield at a large scale in the US. Of course, the scale here, I'm talking about like, let's say in the whole US, but the concept is really the same, even if you're doing like, I don't know, genetics work of some sort, so the scale of problem is really not the relevant point here. It's more that you have a response variable, you need to find predictor variables that can explain that and how you train models to do that. So on the left here, we just have the bias variance trade-off, which we're going to talk in a lot more detail in a lecture. but it's just this idea of underfitting and overfitting a model and how to find the best machine learning model for your data and making sure you're not running too simplistic of a model, neither too complex of a model. And then the plot we have here on the right is just a predicted by observed plots. We see a lot of these plots in machine learning. One of the reasons is that machine learning is normally, so if you think of experimental design analysis, right? You already know your design, you already know your model even before you collect the data, because it's set. Is your treatment design, experimental design? So we have a factorial with the randomized complete block design. That is your model. It's not going to change, at least not, it can change in some cases, but in very minor ways. On machine learning side, on the other hand, we have different algorithms that we can use. Each one of those algorithms may have different hyperparameters that need to be fine-tuned for your data. So there is really a trial and error exercise in a way that the same data applying different models, we're going to get, different models are going to be able to predict that data differently. And one of the ways that we can assess the quality of that prediction is by doing these predicted by observed plots and see how far from reality our model is predicting those observations. So this is going to be a very popular plot that we're going to see, especially on the machine learning side. Next, we're going to learn and apply machine learning. Oops, sorry, I think that was the same topic, but I just want to show you here a couple of other outputs. So one of the algorithms you're going to be using is random forest, is a very popular machine learning algorithm for many reasons. However, one thing you're going to see a lot in this course and also in your own machine learning path is that normally there is a trade-off between model complexity and model interpretability. So if you think of it, linear regression being the simplest one, you get a slope and intercept, you can easily explain what that means in relation to your data. And then as you get, for example, in random forest, now we have multiple models making a prediction. So there's really no one single model that you can show and say, these are the coefficients for this model and interpret them. So one of the ways that we use to interpret random forest models is by variable importance, which is what you're seeing here on the left. It's just one of the ways that we can visualize and interpret random forest models because they start getting more complex. If you think about it, as you move even more complex models than random forest, so let's say if we run some type of neural network, it really becomes even more difficult to explain it. So this always keep in mind this trade-off between model complexity and how easy it is to explain what the model is actually doing. And then on the right here, we just have a conditional inference tree output, which is another type of tree-based model. I tend to like this a lot just because I think it's a good trade-off between complexity and interpretability. We're going to talk more about that in other classes. And then we'll be doing all of the above while learning and using data science tools for reproducibility, like version control with Git and GitHub, statistical programming in this class, again, is going to be R, using APIs to publicly available data sets. So we're going to be learning how to find these databases, how to download them, how to process this data that is open source data already out there. Task automation is going to be a very important one in data science. Where let's say you have an analysis that you can automate in different ways, either by writing functions or by doing iteration on that data. We're going to be exploring that. And then finally creating online interactive dashboards. So this is going to be towards the end of the semester where I really want to teach you how to now deploy what you did. So deploy your model, deploy your data, deploy your visualizations on a dashboard that people can access and they don't have to know programming to really navigate that. So Git and GitHub, and then I just have here on the right just a screenshot of one of the dashboards that I made for the Georgia cotton variety trials that happen every year, just a way to compare. And I can share a link for that if you want to explore further, just to get some idea of what I mean by that. And then I think this may be the last objective, that all steps will be conducted utilizing the R statistical language to create modern, well-documented, and reproducible analytical workflows. And really no previous knowledge in R is required. We're going to start very slow So for those of you that already know R, or maybe you are taking my other class at the same time, this is going to be, maybe repetitive. Maybe you're going to see some things that you have already learned how to do. But if you never use R, this is going to be able to put us all in the same level before we start doing more complicated things. So yeah, we're going to be using R in our studio, a lot of packages from the tidyverse, and then some other packages like spatial data. So SF is one of those examples. And I just want to, I do have a survey later that I'll be able to know this, but just here in Athens that I can see you easily, who here already uses R or maybe Python for your work? Okay, if you can raise your hand. Okay, so maybe like half and half. Great. So let me talk a little. Let me take one step back here and tell you a little bit more about this. So we're going to be using R here to create. I want to emphasize here well-documented and reproducible analytical workflows. What do I mean by that? What I mean is mostly that we're going to be using a statistical programming language to make our analysis, our decisions explicit, especially through code, right? So if you have ever worked with data and you're making extensive use of Excel, you probably know what I'm going to talk about now, that if you need to go back to that Excel sheet and do something different because it changed your mind, it may be very difficult, right? Very few of us take handwritten notes of what we do in Excel. We kind of do it and it's there, and you may be able to see what formula is behind a given cell, but we don't document it well enough. So there's so many decisions that we make through data analysis that if you're doing a programming language, you're documenting your decisions through your code. Whereas if you're doing that on a point-and-click software of any sort, it's really difficult to document that, right? So one example is, if you try to think of any analysis you've done in the past, if you have to go and you did a lot of that data manipulation and even perhaps the analysis in Excel, think about it if you have to go back and redo that again for a new data set. How many decisions you made the first time that you're not going to be able to remember this time? And that just adds error and human error into science that we want to avoid by using a programming language to document what we're doing. And so well documented, and that makes it reproducible, right? So I'm going to talk about one specific example of reproducibility in a different lecture. Reproducibility is a big issue. And really what I mean by that is if you give me your data and your code, and I have the same software, let's say you're running in R with a given package, I should be able to reproduce the same outputs as you did. That is reproducibility. If you give me your data in code and I cannot reproduce it, then your science, your project is not reproducible. And that is very common to happen, and we want just to avoid that. So this is one of the data sets that we're going to be using in this class when it comes to the machine learning side of things. So here I'm using this data to predict cotton fiber quality. In I think this case here was like 1,000 site years across the U.S., like over 40 years of data collection in multiple sites. Where I did you're going to see this data, you're going to play with this data. You're going to have a data set that basically says, I don't know, let's say cotton yield, and then it has the information on the site, so you can locate that geospatially. But now we have to retrieve open data to use as predictors and do feature engineering, which basically means creating new variables out of your current variables and create models to explain this. So we're really going to be doing this type of analysis when it comes to the machine learning side of things. So, I think I mentioned this already, but I just want to mention that again. So this course will be split into two main parts, where the first one is going to be related to planning, designing, and analysis of experimental designs of those most popular ones that I showed you earlier. And the second part is going to be data scraping, feature engineering, and machine learning training. So the first part, experimental design, second part, machine learning. We're going to be exploring both of those topics. And throughout that, that's all going to be intertwined with data science concepts with a focus on agricultural case studies. So, I'm sure, and as my own students take other classes in different departments, I know that there are other classes that may be similar in content to this in different departments. My goal here is to give you the concept, give you the application. We're going to develop the code. We're going to learn how to run this analysis. all using agricultural case studies. It may not be specifically a case study of your specific area, but at least I hope you can make the connections being within ag overall. And so this is my goal, is to give you hands-on training using data sets that are familiar to you. Okay, so when it comes to the experimental design side of things, we're going to be looking into, so the beginning here, we're going to have an intro to R&R Studio. We're going to use a lot of Git and GitHub in this class, so we're going to go through a lecture just for that. Exploring APIs in R to open data from USDA NAS, weather, soil, remote sensing. We're going to do a lot of data wrangling, and in R, I do that a lot with dplyr, tidyr, and the pipe operator are three main components of my data wrangling. If these don't make sense to you at this point, don't worry, they're going to start making sense very quickly. We're going to visualize data using ggplot2. So if you are familiar with R, you can already perhaps notice that we are using we're using packages from the tidyverse family of packages. This is by design. I'm teaching you what I think is the easiest, most intuitive packages to use. There are different ways of doing what I'll be showing you, but I think the one I'm showing you is the most cohesive, concise, and easier to understand. Then we're going to really take a step back here and talk about experimental unit, randomization, and replication. Those are the bases of experimental design. So we need to understand these concepts before we really start designing studies. And then talk about experimental and treatment designs and ANOVAs. I don't know if you already learned about this distinction, but there is an experimental design side of your study. There is a treatment design, and those are different things. So we're going to be talking about them, the differences, and how we incorporate them in an analysis of variance code. We're going to talk about fixed and random effects and go through an example of what difference does it make. So when I was taking stats courses, there was a lot of conversation about running your analysis of variance models, your effects as fixed or random. There's some guidelines on that, but I never really had it explained in a way that I understood what would be the implications of choosing one over the other. So we're going to do that in a class period as well. I have here repeated measures. I guess I'm going to learn better from when you all answered the survey to see if this is something that you are going to be needing, or a lot of you are going to be needing in your research. If yes, then I'll teach you repeated measures, which is basically a concept that going back to the concept of randomization. So when we randomize a study, that basically allows us to assume that residuals of the model are independent. With repeated measure, we apply to things that we cannot randomize. So for example, time or space. You cannot randomize time or space, it is fixed. Because that violates one of the assumptions of the ANOVA, we have to account for that with our models. So that's what repeated measures is doing. And when you answer your surveys that I'm gonna give you shortly here, please make sure to mention if that's something of your interest. And they're gonna be automating repetitive tasks through iteration. On the machine learning side, we're going to start off with linear regression and then go through nonlinear regression. So we're talking about those dose response relationships in data and finding optimums in your data. We're going to talk about dimensionality reduction. This is something very important in machine learning. There are many models that if you train a model with many many explanatory variables that are correlated with themselves. So let's say, if you have soils data and you have clay and sand, those, because they are on a percentage and they can only add to 100% when you incorporate silt, they are correlated, right? So if you increase clay, you decrease sand or silt and so on. So if you have variables that are correlated, that could cause big issues in your models, especially machine learning models, and that may require dimensionality reduction. So we're going to be talking about principal component analysis for that and how to incorporate that in machine learning workflows as well. Then again, these machine learning concepts of bias variance trade-off, data split, hyperparameter optimization, and predictive assessment. And then some machine learning models, we're going to learn both unsupervised and supervised models. So k-means is one example of unsupervised. It is a clustering algorithm that we use to perhaps learn certain groupings within your data that may not be explicit as a column already. We're gonna use tree models like random forest and conditional inference trees and XGBoost. Depending on the time and how we are doing as a semester progresses, if I see that we're spending too much time on a given topic and I'm running short of time in the end, we may adjust these. So another model that I think I have on the outline, but it's not here, I think I forgot to include, is ElasticNet. So these models are some of the most common machine learning models. If there's something specific that you see here that you want to learn, please make sure to say on the survey that you have, because that's going to help me. If we're running out of time, it's going to help me to prioritize what to teach you. And then creating simple dashboards in R and creating Shiny apps. If you ever heard of Shiny apps, that's what we're going to be learning how to do. That's what's going to be our interactive dashboard, and then publishing those dashboards online. So all of the classes will be recorded like we're recording right now, and I will post these to I have a class YouTube channel that should have the link in the syllabus here and also on the website. After I post on the channel, I do have that linked to the schedule on the website. So, today's course is going to appear on this link right here. So if you want to go directly to YouTube channel and watch there, you can. If you don't want to look for the YouTube channel, you can just bookmark this page where you're going to see the slides, the code, and also the recordings on the schedule here. And I just want to make sure that we are on the same page as far as attendance. So the recordings are meant for you to watch in case maybe I spoke about a topic too fast and you want to just recap what I said. Maybe you missed a class because you had to miss a class and you want to catch up, which is going to be really important. One thing you're going to notice on this class is you can miss classes, of course, but you don't want to wait too long to catch up, because a lot of times what we learn today is going to impact what we learn tomorrow or on the next class meeting. So if you miss today and you don't catch up and just come next class period, you're not going to be able to follow along. So the recordings are going to be very important for you to be timely on catching up if you have to. And they do not replace in-person or remote attendance. I still want you all to, here in Athens, come in person, in other campuses to watch remotely, but live. So that the recordings do not replace that. Okay, so here's how grading is going to be. We're going to have a midterm project, which is going to be an experimental data analysis. So my plan here is that we go through those experimental design concepts, and then I turn over to you for you to apply this to one of your data sets. So you really can have a hands-on with your own data application here. In case you don't have data yet, I can always provide you with some of the data that I have, and you can still complete this. I think probably if you don't have data yet, it may be a better option if you can ask your advisors if they have a similar data set to what you're going to be using in your research, because at least you play with something that makes sense to your program. But if that is not an option, I can always provide you on my own data for you to go through. We're going to have a midterm exam, homework assignments, in-class quizzes. So the quizzes here is the only one I want to stop and explain a little bit more detail. So the quizzes are in class only, meaning that if you miss a class, that is the only thing you cannot make up for. You can only take a quiz if you're in class, and all the quizzes are short, just for me to have an idea if you're understanding what I'm saying in that class. And if you're not, then I can revisit that and maybe try to explain again a different way. So they're meant to be done in class, and they are 15% of your grade. I don't expect any of you to be missing enough classes that you miss a lot of quizzes and therefore hurt your grade. But I just want to make that very clear. The quizzes are only done in class. You cannot make up for them. And then we're going to have a final project. It's going to be a machine learning approach. So my goal here is, and I'm very excited about this, is to do a hackathon. So pretty much I'm going to give you a data set that has your response variable of interest. So let's say cotton yield, and then you are free to use whatever data set you want from we're going to be learning some open source, but if you find others that you want to use and you can use, you're welcome to. And then I'm still deciding if I'm gonna leave the algorithm option open or if I'm gonna split you all in groups and then assign each group one algorithm type. So let's say random forest or XGBoost or something else. We're gonna see about that, but it's basically gonna be a hackathon. And in the end, I think it's fun because regardless how good your model is, as long as you're doing all the steps that you should be doing to train a machine learning model, you're gonna get a good grade. But then on top of that, we also have a little bit of a competition, right? So what is the best model among you all that can predict the data set I'm giving you? So that's also going to be perhaps an extra credit. Whoever can come up with the best model gets a few extra points there. And then class participation is worth 10%. I just want to make this very clear. I am talking just myself a lot today, but I want to tell you that please interrupt me if you have questions. I want you to interrupt me. I don't want you to go through a long period of time without understanding what I'm saying, just because, I maybe forgot to explain well, or maybe you didn't get it. Please ask questions. I will be asking you all questions. There's going to be a point in this course where we're going to co-create the scripts. So we'll ask you, what do you think we should do here? What function should we use here? And I'm going to be asking you all to participate. I do expect you to participate. We're going to see here maybe in a little bit, but if you're not a person that likes to speak during class, I understand that as well. I'm not going to force you to do that, but there are going to be other ways of participating online. So you can also use that way if you rather not speak in class. So some course website, or some important links here. So there's the course website that I just showed you. This is the page. Again, this is where I'm going to post everything related to this course. We have the GitHub repository, which we're going to talk short or in a moment here, we're going to talk about that. So that's where I'm going to share with you the code. The way that these classes are going to work is whenever we do live coding, I will share with you first a partially filled script. So you have something to start off with, but we'll further develop that script in class together. And then after we finish that script, however many classes it takes, only then I will post the final version of the script fully developed. So the goal here is that we will develop scripts together in class. And then the course YouTube channel so these are all links in this presentation. So whenever you open the presentation, you can click on these if you need those links. So some of my slides are going to be HTML, like this one right here. And I know that, you cannot really take notes on an HTML file. So if you want to download my HTML slides as PDF, so you can take notes beforehand, I just have some instructions here on how to do that. So I'm not going to go through it, but you can go through on your own and try that out if you wish. Okay, so asking questions, and I guess here we're going to get into the participation as well. So if you have a question that's related to difficulties with the material, with the code, with an assignment, I want you to post your question to our GitHub page using issues on GitHub. If you never use GitHub, this sentence may have not made sense to you, but we're going to see what that means. So this class here, all the code is going to be shared through GitHub. I have a GitHub repository for this class. Every time I post a new script or maybe a new data set, I will tell you, go ahead and retrieve it from the GitHub page of this course. And we're going to see here shortly that GitHub has this, I guess, on a GitHub repository where you have the code, you also have a tab that's called issues. So if you've never heard of GitHub, never used it, GitHub is used for collaborative programming projects of any language, right? So it's not language specific. And one of the things with programming projects is that a lot of times there are bugs. And so let's say if you develop an R package and I'm using it and I find a bug, and you do have a GitHub page for that open source package, I can go in there on the issues tab and say, hey, I was running function X and I found this issue. Can you try to fix this? Or maybe I'm doing something wrong. So you can really raise bugs to the developer of that package or that programming effort, or even, we can even use this to keep track of things that need to be improved in a given package. You can come here and say, I need to add feature X to this package, and then that becomes an issue, almost like a to-do list. In our case, we're going to be using issues as a forum. So if you have a question, if you have an issue, I want you to post there first, because I do want to, so let's say one of you have an issue with a given assignment or maybe installing a package or whatever it is. If you email me, I may be able to help you. Hopefully I will, but maybe other people in the class are having the same issue. And so if each one of you email me and I help you individually, first, that adds a lot to my plate, but also you don't have the opportunity to help each other. So I do want you to use the issues when you have questions so we can help each other, and asking questions on issues and also helping others if you can count as participation. So again, if you're not a huge fan of speaking in public and speaking in class, make sure you use the issues to try to help your colleagues when they have questions. Okay, so let's do a quick exercise here. So as I was telling you, the class has a GitHub repository. If you are following along this presentation, this is a link. Oh, let me go back. This is a link. You can click on it. It's going to take you to the class GitHub repository. And I guess before we actually go in there, I want to ask you to, if you did not have a GitHub account yet, please go ahead right now and sign up for one. It is free. It should be very straightforward. And I just want to give you here a moment. So if you just go on github.com, and you could just sign up for a free account. I'm going to give you, I don't know, 5 minutes here just to allow for you, if you don't have yet an account, just to allow for you to create one. And if you are creating one, while you're doing that, I just want to mention here. So we're going to use issues again for asking questions. Today, I want to use issues for introductions. So I'm going to go on so if you are creating your account right now, don't worry, go ahead and create it. If you already have an account, we're going to do some introductions on the GitHub page of this course. If you are creating an account right now, I'll give you time to complete this afterwards as well. Please go ahead and create your account first. But if you already have an account, our GitHub page is so github.com/Leo M. Bastos. That's my username, /2024_DSA. This is the repo for this class that we're going to be using during this semester. So if you already have an account and you are able to navigate to the GitHub repo, there is this issues tab. So there's a code and there's an issues and there's other ones here. But there's an issues tab. I'm going to click on it. There's this new issue green button here. I will create an issue and I want you all to respond on that issue. So I'm going to call this, give it a title, introductions. And then I'm just going to say here my name. So Leo Bastos. So I'm this instructor, but in your case, you can tell me if you are a master's or PhD student, your department, so crop and soil sciences. And well, I guess most of us are here in Athens, so you don't really have to tell me you're in Athens, but what we can do here is maybe you can just tell me your overall area of expertise. So in my case would be precision ag. So if you are, in agronomy, I don't know, horticulture, in anything like that, if you can provide me some details, you can do that right here. So I'm gonna submit this new issue. So now if you click on that issues tab, there should be this introductions issue there. If you click on it, I want you to come here and just give me your introduction below. And I'm just going to give you all a moment here to do that. If you have any questions or issues, please let me know. I'll be glad to help you. So you can go on the GitHub repository for the course, which is called, so it's github.com/Leo M. Bastos, that's my username, /2024_DSA. That stands for Data Science Applied to Ag. So once you go to that repository, which is the repository for this class, there's gonna be an issues tab on top. You click on that, and then there's gonna be this introductions issue. You open that, and then you just introduce yourself here. I'm just gonna give another couple minutes here, and then we'll keep moving. All right, so I'm gonna keep going. If you were not able to either sign up for a GitHub account, or maybe we're not able to introduce yourself through that issue, please make sure to do that before the end of the class today, because that will serve as your attendance as well. Yeah, so just wanted to make that clear. Okay, and this is just a reminder that both asking questions on GitHub as an issue or helping others when they have questions will also count towards your participation. So this is one opportunity to participate without having to speak much in class if you don't like that. Okay, so you are expected to attend every class period. Again, the students in Athens are expected to attend in person in this room. If you do have a special circumstance, so, for example, today would be a great one with the weather, or maybe you are sick, or maybe something happened, I am very flexible as long as we communicate, right? So please let me know before that class period that you need to miss it. And I am completely fine with that, that you will have that class excuse for missing it. So it's not going to count as a missed class for you because you communicated with me beforehand. If you do not communicate with me beforehand, it will count as a missed class on your ELC. So yeah, as long as we communicate, it should work all right. And again, students in Tifton and Griffin, you can attend in person in case you need to or want to, but you're also welcome to attend remotely, even though it's still live, right? So I still want you to be live, but it doesn't have to be from your own campus in-person location. If you do end up missing more than 5 class periods unexcused, so let's say if you miss class and you're not giving me a heads up before you have to miss it, it will count as a missed class. And if you miss more than 5 classes, I reserve the right to drop you from this class. Because again, it is really important that you attend this class in person, or that you attend this class either in person or remotely. And so, yeah, just wanted to make this clear. Okay, so if you are attending online through Zoom, I do want to ask you to have your camera on at all times. Of course, sometimes you cannot do that for some reason. If that's the case, just communicate why you cannot turn it on. But otherwise, I do expect you to have your camera on. And even though today is a class that we're going through a lecture, this is going to be very rare. We're not going to be going through lectures. And I'm saying that because we're going to be doing a lot of live coding that you're going to have to be concentrated and really paying attention to the class. And so, it's not a type of class that you can turn off your camera and do something else while you hear it. You will have to be paying full attention to follow along. And with that, I do ask that you have your camera on as well. Okay, so technology requirements. So you will need to have a computer. I see that, I guess most of you, if not all of you already have a laptop here. If that laptop can be either like your personal laptop or maybe your own work laptop, that would be better. And the reason for that is because we're going to be installing some software. If this laptop that you use is your own, then you already have all that installed on your computer. You're set up for doing your own analysis on your own research after this class. If you are not attending in person, so let's say if you are in Athens, but for some reason you cannot be in person, you communicate that to me and you're going to attend from home or from your office or whatever that is, you will need to have a second screen. The reason for that is because in one screen, I will be live coding with you all. On the other one, you have to do the coding on your side. Again, this is a live co-coding exercise. We're going to be doing a lot. So you will need a second screen. If you are attending in person, the projector here is your second screen, so you don't even have to worry about it. If you are attending remotely, you will need to have a second screen wherever you are. If you cannot, if you do plan to sometimes attend remotely and you do not have a second screen, let me know. We may be able to help you in some way, but that is just a requirement that's going to happen. Some students in the past, I know we're using just like tablets, so it doesn't have to be a full-blown screen. It can be, if you have a tablet, you can just connect on Zoom on that and be watching me on your tablet while you code on your laptop. And again, if you don't have access to these resources, let me know and we may be able to accommodate that. All right, so data science class, we're not going to be training large language models in this class, but I'm sure you will all be tempted to use that in this class. And so I just want to make clear what is my policy for using AI, large language models like ChatGPT, Bard, or others in plagiarism. So I do not mind if you use these tools. You know, if you have not used, you can easily go there and say, write code in order to do this. It will do that very nicely, very beautifully. And a lot of times it works very well. Sometimes you may even have issues with your own code. You can give your code and say, hey, I'm having issues with this code. Help me figure out what's going on. Sometimes it will be able to figure out what's going on with your code and help you out with that. So I do want to say that I'm okay with you using these as resources as long as you're using these for learning. Okay, so what I mean by that is if I'm asking you to do something on assignment and you just go and copy my statement, give that to ChatGPT and ask for an answer and just copy and paste that, that's plagiarism. And I'm gonna have to report you for that. I don't want you to do that. What I do want you to do is, let's say you, for some reason, something I said in class didn't make sense to you, or maybe you think there's a different way of explaining that concept. You can go there and say, how can I do this in R or whatever? Use this for your learning purposes. So if you do get an answer from it, I don't want you to just copy and paste it. I want you to actually understand what is going on in that code. That is okay with me, as long as you learn from it and not just copy and paste. Of course, you know, the main reason for this is that even though this is a very nice tool that we're going to have access to as we, you know, develop these analysis and after this class, but I don't want you to be relying on ChatGPT to know how to do the things that you're learning, right? What if you don't have ChatGPT at some point? You need to at least have an understanding of what you're doing. You cannot just copy and paste from that. And if you do use ChatGPT, I want you to be transparent with me and give it appropriate credit. Again, you're not going to be penalized by using ChatGPT as long as you use it for learning and not just copy and pasting. And if you do use it for learning, I want you to give it credit so I know I can plan myself as well. I can see, okay, I see that a lot of students are using ChatGPT for this assignment. Maybe I wasn't clear. Maybe I can make this easier. Maybe I can make this more clear to you in the next ones. So I want you to give appropriate credit for me to understand when you're using it and why you're using it, and if I can do something to help with that. And just want to make very clear, plagiarism is a very important topic. Either if you're plagiarizing from ChatGPT or from a classmate, this is a serious violation. I, as an instructor, am obligated by the university to report plagiarism. So I would just, if I find plagiarism, I cannot just talk to you and be okay with it. I have to report it. So I'm just saying this to let you know, please do not plagiarize, do your own work. And if you're having issues, if you're stuck, if you have a deadline that for an assignment that you have to, you know, it's going to be tough for you to make it and you get tempted to plagiarize, let me know. I'm okay with, as long as we're transparent, you know, we can work around deadlines. I can try to help you with whatever issue you're having. Let's just be transparent and not go this route. Okay, so I have another thing for you to do on your side. We have this survey here. Again, if you are following the slides on your side, this is an active link. You can click on that. If you are not, then you can basically, I guess, type this on your browser. It's not a very long. You know what? Let me just see here if I actually gave you the right form. Because it's saying, let me just do something here, see what the next questions are. Yeah, okay, you had the right form. I guess I just forgot to change the title there. Yeah, so please go ahead and fill this form. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. And again, this form here, if you have anything of the things that I mentioned that you think you're going to be using, you think you're interested in learning, make sure to say on, there's going to be a part there that you can tell me about your research and what you're doing. So make sure to write that down so I know what topics are gonna be most relevant to you are the ones that we have some flexibility around. So if you have a specific designs of your experiments you're using, please mention that. If you have a specific machine learning approach that you're interested, also make sure to mention that. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes here. All right, I think most of you have already answered. If you have not, make sure to finish that before today's class period. Um, so let's move on here. Okay. So next class, we are going to start doing live coding sessions. It's going to be an introduction to R and R Studio. And I do have some material that I want you to follow to get ready for that class. So if you go here on our class website, so again, this is on my website under teaching, and then data science and stats programming applied to ag. There is this prep material before first lab. So I want you to come here and click on that lab 1 prep link. This is gonna open a new window for you that has some instructions there. So you may, excuse me, if you do not have yet R and R Studio, you will be required to download and install those. If you have never used R before, I just want to make one distinction here that the software that actually runs everything that we're doing is R. R Studio is just a development environment, an integrated development environment that makes it easier to program in R. So if you go and only install R Studio, it's not going to work. You have to first install R and then R Studio for this to work properly. So steps 1 and 2 are that, and then step 3 is downloading the class material from GitHub. I have actually not uploaded the lab material to GitHub yet. When I do upload that, I will let you know, and then you can fill, well, I guess I'm sorry, for right now, you can go ahead and download the class material from GitHub, because there's going to be one script for you to install some packages. And then whenever I upload something new, I will email you all saying, hey, I just uploaded a new script to the GitHub repo. Please go ahead and download that. And I believe at this point, all of you already have signed up for a free GitHub account. If you have not, please go ahead and do that. And then we have all the instructions below here with the links and what to do. So I think that's all that I had. Yeah, so that's all that I had for today. So let's just recap here. You can leave if you have already introduced yourself on GitHub, if you have already filled the survey, and if you already have, well, I would say, even if you already have R&R Studio, go ahead and download the material from GitHub and install those packages, because some of those packages may have some issues. And if you have issues, it's easier if I am here with you so I can help you see what's going on. So let's just go ahead and do that. If you already took one of my classes in the past and you have done these steps already, including the install packages, you're free to go. And just to remind you, our class goes to 11:10. So we do have here, 25 minutes or so to go through these if you have not done that yet. And let me know if you have any issues. I'll be here to help you out. So I'm going to stop recording here, but if anyone online has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. Oh,